We're at the park, West Palm Beach, here with my buddy Brian. We're playing the par 3 course called
the Lit 9.
The Lit 9. I think it's because it stays open at night with lights, not because of the activities that take place out here.
I'm Brian Mulligan. I'm the co-head of financial sponsors at BCI Capital. We are a structured finance and capital markets arm of U.S. commercial bank here in Florida called City National Bank of Florida. And BCI Capital primarily focus on structured lending and fund finance to private equity funds, infrastructure funds, real estate, asset managers, both credit and equity.
Missed.
And I'd say one of our greatest strengths is that we specialize in real assets. So we're one of the few banks that lends into the real estate equity fund manager space. A lot of our competitors are usually private funds. So we're a bank cost of capital there. That's been a competitive edge for us.
Bingo! We're at the park, West Palm Beach, here with my buddy Brian. We're playing the par 3 course called
the Lit 9.
The Lit 9. I think it's because it stays open at night with lights, not because of the activities that take place out here. But you want to give your introduction really quick and kind of an overview, high level of who y'all are?
Sure. I'm Brian Mulligan. I'm the co-head of financial sponsors at BCI Capital. We are a structured finance and capital markets arm of U.S. commercial bank here in Florida called City National Bank of Florida. We are also the investment banking platform of our parent company called BCI Financial Group. They're about a $100 billion global corporate and investment bank based in Santiago, Chile. And BCI Capital primarily focus on structured lending and fund finance to private equity funds, infrastructure funds, real estate, asset managers, both credit and equity, as well as some other esoteric asset managers. We operate in really like 3 main verticals: fund finance, which includes subscription lending, NAV lending, asset-based finance, as well as warehousing and portfolio company financing and leverage lending.
What about size? How much have y'all put to work?
Yeah, so we started the group about 2 years ago. Since then, we've deployed about $3 billion in committed financings across all those products.
All right, you mentioned a handful of different products that y'all kind of specialize in. I know NAV lending is definitely one where y'all spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
You want to double click into that?
Sure. Equity fund?
Hold on.
Yeah,
It was just exceptionally loud there.
It was.
All right, and go.
All right. NAV lending is essentially lending to a private equity fund against the portfolio investments that it's made. We lend against the residual equity value of those investments, whether there's financing at the asset level or not. And I'd say one of our greatest strengths is that we specialize in real assets, private equity funds. So we're one of the few banks that lends into the real estate equity fund manager space. A lot of our competitors are usually private funds. So we're a bank cost of capital there. That's been a competitive edge for us. I'd say we try and take a constructive and creative approach when we're looking into portfolio financings, and that's been probably 33 to 40% of our overall business to date.
Yeah. When you say creative structuring, I mean, what are the fund managers looking for usually when they're engaging with y'all?
They're looking primarily for additional working capital to continue investing in their portfolio investments beyond the investment period of the LPs, right? So the LPs have committed all their equity. They have no more on-call capital remaining to continue investing, but they still have needs at the portfolio level. So they utilize NAV lending to get additional leverage that lasts a little bit longer through the life cycle of the fund.
Got it. Yeah, so y'all are a relatively new platform. Y'all have had a tremendous amount of growth over the past couple of years, right?
Yep.
How did y'all kind of start the platform, or what was the genesis?
Yeah, so BCI Capital was started by our executive, Raul Yanes. He started a similar platform at another Florida-based bank called Bank United back in the day. and was brought over here to build something similar. We have a tremendous amount of support from our parent company in Chile and our risk apparatus here in the U.S. And I think part of that's because we've taken the strengths of the bank. City National Bank is a very real estate asset level financing specialist in the Florida market, and use that to our advantage. So a lot of what we've focused on in the fund and structured finance space has been real estate and real assets oriented. So
got it. That makes sense.
Risk was able to get comfortable with the collateral, which enabled us to scale our business rapidly.
Attached to a Chilean bank.
Yeah.
What's the involvement or attachment there?
All of our deals are reviewed by both the Chilean risk apparatus as well as our board, since we write the largest checks in the bank. So every single one of my deals goes through local committee to Chilean committee to the board. So there's a high level of visibility across the entire transaction life cycle. And we've been an important component of growth for both the bank here in the U.S. as well as our parent company.
What's their kind of profile?
BCI in Chile is the second largest bank in Chile. They're really deeply experienced in the infrastructure and renewables financing space down there. So that's been also an important area of focus for us here. Real assets related, cash flowing portfolios, renewable financing, which is a really important component here, especially with data centers and electric charging vehicles, etc. So we've done a lot in that space as well. We're lending into a lot of power generation companies that are sponsor backed, which has been a great area of focus for us. And it helps me merge both my past experience as a power and utilities banker and my present experience as a sponsor coverage banker together. So that's been a lot of fun.
Are you underwriting to a whole portfolio, or can you cherry pick certain assets out of it?
Yeah, so that's kind of the nature of what we do in NAV lending, is that we look at the overall portfolio and we pick which assets we would like to carve out based on a number of different parameters and build a borrowing-based type structure that suits the client's need in terms of availability and also our needs in terms of risk profile, cash flows. It's a happy medium between the two. So we're meeting the client's need while also structuring a high-quality transaction. So there's a lot of different types of fund managers, value-added real estate, investors. Core plus, stabilized, construction and developers, right? So we have to have a good understanding of the different types and the goals of our sponsor to be able to structure something that works, right? So obviously value add is not going to be cash flowing up front, but what you're underwriting to is the realized value of the portfolio as opposed to the current cash flows of the portfolio, right? So we have solutions that work for those types of investors versus cash flow lenders or cash flow investors.
What's the time limit look like for a lot of these? Like, are people, in a scenario like a construction type of a scenario, is it kind of a quick closeout? Like post-construction, they're trying to close out the line that they've drawn down on, or like, I guess, what do you see the profile in a couple different pockets look like?
I mean, I think the profile for a lot of our NAV clients are that they've run out of uncalled capital and they're looking to find a liquidity solution for the remainder of their investment cycle. And there can be all kinds of scenarios around that. There can be construction financing that's maturing that they need to find a solution for at the fund level. There can be final investments that they need to make in their underlying portfolio to get them ready for final realization. And there can be middle of the life cycle working capital needs that they just need a solution for.
All right, so we hit on NAV. What are some other products that people should be thinking about that y'all spend time on?
I mean, we're a full service financial sponsors group, so we do subscription lending, which is obviously as funds are raising capital and from LPs, we can lend against their commitments to get them investing and to bridge between capital calls, which is pretty standard in the space. Other than that, we do a lot of esoteric asset-based financing. So for diversified asset managers that invest across a wide range of either private credit products or infrastructure products. So we can lend against senior secured, mezz,
Okay.
pref, junior sub, securitization strips. We've actually carved out a nice niche for ourselves within the CLO financing space. So we lend against either CLO debt investments or the equity from issuing CLOs that fund managers, maybe are issuing CLOs and holding the risk retention piece. We've lent against that as well. So that's been an area of strength for us. And I think, again, we're lending in the private credit space against those types of portfolio investments, but it's primarily in a diversified manner, right?
Sure.
So we're not just focused on, one area of the private credit markets.
Yeah. How are y'all sourcing opportunities?
Yeah, I think it comes from kind of three main areas. I mean, primarily is relationships of the co-head senior bankers, myself, my co-head George, Raul, and the other senior leaders on the team. Relationships from other organizations that we've worked at and that have traveled with us.
Yep.
Second is, working with investment banking teams that focus in the space but don't have the balance sheet to provide the financings that they're looking for. And then third, a lot of it is coming from referrals from existing clients.
Yeah.
So even in the 2 years that we've been in business, we've already had several clients where we've transacted across several funds. Either a NAV facility, a subline, and an ABF facility with the same fund manager that has then yielded other opportunities with their friends across the industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. Business begets business. Like, you do a good job for someone, they're going to talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean, we're a relationship-oriented team.
What's your team structure look like? How many of there are y'all, and what are the different responsibilities sort of within?
Yeah, so when we started 2 years ago, as one of the first hires, there were 5 of us. Today we have 16 across the two main business areas of BCI Capital. My area, which is the financial sponsors group, as well as the capital solutions team. So our capital solutions team is our syndications arm, both primary and secondary, as well as JV partnerships and co-lending along with private funds in the market. So we've been successful in syndicating some of our facilities to large asset managers with asset-based financing teams, which allows us to be more flexible with our capital and recycle capital to beget more transactions.
Sure.
And it also makes risk happy that we're spreading the risk across the space. And I think our team's great. We've hired very interestingly. We've got guys from all different areas of finance, not necessarily fund finance prior to being here. So we've got a bunch of leverage finance bankers, we have securitization bankers, we've got FIG coverage bankers, syndications bankers, debt capital markets bankers, all kind of with different areas of expertise, which allows us to kind of think around a lot of different situations and bring thoughtful solutions with different perspectives.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Where do you see the room for expansion?
I think, one of our, kind of strategic goals for the platform is to obviously grow the assets of the bank here in the U.S. and enable our parent to penetrate more into the U.S. market. I see us kind of adding on specialized industry groups as we kind of expand, a more renewables and energy focused effort. Other types of products like private placements, maybe capital raising on the equity side for our existing fund manager sponsors. So I think there's a lot of different areas where we can tack on creative strategies.
Yeah, push into some new areas.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, people love the personal side of the interview. How'd you find yourself in the, to go broad, like finance industry?
Sure, yeah. Well, I graduated into the financial crisis back in 2009, so
business degree or degree in
political science.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I went to what people call a target school, but nobody was hiring nonetheless, right?
Sure.
So I flirted with the military a couple of times. I was about to go to officer candidate school for the Marine Corps, and then I got an investment banking offer. And I started my career at Stern AG, which was a boutique investment bank based in Birmingham, Alabama. I worked in the New York office, and after about a year, we got acquired, and I found myself without a job again. And I found my way over to SMBC's Power and Utilities banking team, And from there I spent a decade as a power and utilities and infrastructure corporate and investment banker.
Yeah. So you're doing both sides.
I've done both
You're
sides.
doing lending and
I was doing lending and advisory there, BNP Paribas. And then I went back to SMBC to do debt advisory. And from there I made the internal switch back in 2019 into the fund finance team there, which is a market leader in the space, $60 billion in assets in that sector. And that was my jumping off point into this area of the market. Spent some time bopping around at the other City National Bank and TD's REITs and Investment Funds team before landing here at BCI Capital to help build this platform.
Nice. Yeah, when you think back to like earlier part of your career, what's some good advice that you could give to an aspiring professional, whether banking or private equity or just finance generally?
Yeah, good question. There were plenty of times throughout my career where I felt like I knew nothing, so stick with it and stay, persevere through those periods. But I think one of the things that I've tried to do throughout my career is stay curious and do things, different types of things in different areas of the market, whether it be commercial lending, debt capital markets, advisory side, and then switching gears into the fund finance world and trying to learn subscription lending to NAV lending to ABF, trying to stay curious and build a well-rounded skill set, I think is important. And a lot of people get pigeonholed and focused really early in their careers when there's a whole world out there to explore. Look, I'm a people person, so I knew that I kind of wanted to be in a relationship management role, but I wouldn't say that there was necessarily a grand master plan behind this. It's really just following my areas of interest and my passions to try and build something that was sustainable. And now I've finally found myself in a place where I truly enjoy the work that I'm doing and the people that I'm doing it with. So,
which is important.
When you have those opportunities, hold on to them.
Thanks for doing it.
Thanks a lot, man. It's been fun.